Good evening. Thank you. I mean, I don't want to embarrass the governor. And so, first of all, we have a very special guest this evening, a true national leader who's demonstrated his lifelong commitment to the people of the state of New York and also to the people of the state of Israel, Governor Andrew Cuomo. When speaking about Andrew Cuomo, there are really four words that come to mind: empathy, courage, effective, and leader. Learning from his late father, the late Governor Mario Cuomo, and his mother Matilda, Andrew learned empathy for those less fortunate, for those who were excluded. And we have always been very touched by the story of how Mario Cuomo, in an act of kindness, would always go into his neighbor's home, an observant Orthodox Jew, and would turn the lights on for them for Shabbat. He's got courage. During the war in Gaza, when the missiles were still flying, Andrew Cuomo was there on the front lines. He also was shown the tunnels while they were still warm, those tunnels coming in from Gaza. And as governor, he was the first U.S. governor to sign an executive order directing the state of New York to disavow and not do business with anybody who was doing boycotts and divestments and sanctions against Israel. He's also incredibly effective. When you look around New York is thriving, and you look around, all the things that have been talked about for years have suddenly become a reality. The new Kosciuszko Bridge, the new Mario Cuomo Bridge across, replacing the old Tappan Zee Bridge, and for those of you who ever drive through the Grand Central, you see that a new LaGuardia Airport is coming up every day. So he's a leader. Empathy, courage, effectiveness are all traits of a great leader. So we're fortunate to have one in the name of Andrew Cuomo. So as a representative organization of the Jewish people in New York metropolitan area, it is my great honor and our great honor to present to you Andrew Cuomo and to present him with the JCRC's Defender of Israel Award. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our friend, the 56th governor of the state of New York, Andrew M. Cuomo.
Well, thank you very much. Good evening to all of you. It is a good evening, isn't it? First to Charlie Temmel, who just does a great, great job representing JCRC. Let's give him a big round of applause. Michael Miller, who's my hero, who always shows up, always working, always advocating. We have Counsel General Dani Dayan, who is in many ways the personality of Israel. Good to be with you. We have the Controller of the State of New York, who's very important because he has to certify that our books are in order. Controller Tom DiNapoli. We have our great new young speaker, Corey Johnson, and we're very hopeful for his new leadership. We have Bill Weir, who told you he's from CNN. Good to be with you, Bill. I have a brother. Every family has one, right? I have a brother who went the other way from the family teaching and the family morality and prophecy, and he became a journalist. He's not a real brother. He was adopted, actually. I don't know if you know this, Bill. We found him at the doorstep in a basket. He was 16 years old at the time. Oh, it was a problem. He couldn't speak. He had many issues that he had to get over, and he's been struggling, but CNN has been kind to him. I want you to know, I do interviews on his show in the morning. He says nasty things about me after the interview. I don't get any rebuttal. Chris Cuomo on CNN. He has an anger against me because I'm the older brother. I'm the more accomplished, smarter, more handsome brother. I'm my father's favorite, my mother's favorite. He can't deal with that, so he acts out. Problem is he acts out on television about it. He's never been able to beat me in a game of basketball, and he cheats. But I don't hold any of that against him. I have love in my heart, and I embrace him, and I pity those who work with him. So send him my best and tell him very complimentary about him. Otherwise, he will attack me on the morning show of CNN. But good evening to all of you, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's a special pleasure to be with Mr. Stuart Force, who you're going to be honoring. Mr. Force is here tonight to honor his son, Taylor. Taylor Force was born in Texas, and he attended West Point, and he led troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. He then went back on a school trip while he was working on his MBA to study the country's startup industry, and he was stabbed to death tragically by a Palestinian terrorist. Now, the death of that idealistic young man is a tragedy for everyone who values freedom and democracy. But Mr. Force, while we're sorry for his loss and we remember his son in our prayers, he took the negative and he turned it into a positive, which to me is always the greatest sense of character. And he worked to pass the Taylor Force Act, which prevents U.S. aid from going to survivors of terrorists, which puts the whole world on notice that if you support terrorists, you will pay a price. Big round of applause, and we thank you, Mr. Force. I thank you for this great honor tonight. It comes at a very important time. Yesterday, we marked the 73rd anniversary of the ending of the Second World War in Europe. The evil 12-year reign of the Nazi Empire was crushed. The genocidal regime that took the lives of 6 million Jewish people and 50 million people in total was finally destroyed. This Monday will mark the 70th year since the State of Israel was founded. "11 minutes after Israel was founded, President Truman said this country recognizes the State of Israel. It shouldn't have taken 11 minutes, but we thank him for his prompt action. And it was the beginning of a great relationship. And our countries have enjoyed a special relationship ever since. It's focused on a shared heritage, on shared values, shared security concerns, and shared commercial interests. And I'm proud to say that the relationship has its deepest roots right here in the state of New York. Our stories are intertwined. A young Zionist named Emma Lazarus from Manhattan wrote the immortal words that are on our Statue of Liberty. A student named David Ben-Gurion spent 2 years reading about democratic theory in our public libraries and went on to establish the State of Israel. A Jewish boy from the Lower East Side named Mickey Marcus went to West Point and went on to lead as the first general of the Israeli Defense Forces. The first flag of the State of Israel was sewn by a tailor in Harlem. New York and Israel are political bodies that share the same DNA. And for that reason, we've always shared a special relationship. As a born and bred New Yorker, the Jewish people and the culture are embedded in me. My best friends are Jewish. 2 of my brothers-in-law are Jewish. My father's stories, as Charlie mentioned, as being the Shabbos Goy, my father's favorite philosophy, speaking about Tikkun Olam and the universality of Tikkun Olam and how it really encompasses almost every religion's teaching and the best path forward for community. Unfortunately, as history shows us over and over again, political tides turn. and our interconnections are tested. The economic anger in New York and across this nation have been politically manipulated to turn American against American. The war on immigrants has turned into a war against diversity. Differences, racial differences, religious differences, lifestyle differences have become a flashpoint. It's happening even here in the great state of New York, the state of tolerance. Hate crimes are up 17% between 2016 and 2017, primarily against people who are gay and African Americans. The number of neo-Nazi groups nationwide rose 22% over the past year. The number of anti-Semitic incidents in the state of New York essentially doubled from 2016 to 2017 to about 400 anti-Semitic incidents here in New York. And the complexity of the situation continues to grow. Regardless of your position on the Iranian nuclear agreement, the threat from Tehran against Israel continues and grows. It is these moments that call our character into question. It's these moments that dissolve the gray into black and white and ask each of us individually, where do you stand? And who do you stand with? My answer is simple. As long as I am governor of New York, this state stands 100% with Israel, and we are proud and we are strong. I believe true friendship is shown not in the good times, not in the easy times, but in the hard times. In 2000, when President Bill Clinton was trying to negotiate peace between Israel and Palestine and things were tense, I was in President Clinton's cabinet as the HUD secretary, and he sent me to Israel to speak about what we were trying to do. In 2002, when suicide bombers were attacking Israeli buses and everybody left, there was no tourism, there were no visitors, I led a New York delegation as a sign of solidarity to go to Israel. In 2014, as Charlie mentioned, when Hamas was bombing Israel, we wrote a letter of support. The Prime Minister invited us to put together a delegation to visit, and we headed a bipartisan delegation. Michael Miller was kind enough to join us, and it was the trip of a lifetime. As Charlie mentioned, we went and we visited the tunnels that the Hamas had built. Those tunnels are etched in my mind as a symbol of their desperation and hatred for the people of Israel. These tunnels were miles long, very sophisticated, and for a country that has so little infrastructure, so few resources, they put such tremendous effort and money into building these tunnels. It was just indicative of how their number one priority is to inflict violence on the people of Israel. That was the last time I saw Mr. Perez. President Perez was a friend of my father. My father sent me to see the president when I was in my 20s. My father said he is one of the most insightful leaders on the globe. And I went and I met President Perez, and I was talking to him about terrorism and how Israel deals with the constant terrorist attacks. Now, this is when I was in my 20s, 4 years ago. And the president said, I'll never forget, they come for us now because we are close, because they can get to us. But one day they will figure out how to cross the ocean, and then they will come for you. Because the enemy is not Israel. The enemy is freedom and democracy. And the way they demonize Israel, they demonize America. And when they figure out how to cross the ocean, you will see. This was 20 years before 9/11. This was before the internet became a transmission line of hate across the ocean. And now we see how right he was and how profound he was. Israel's enemies are America's enemies. They are the same. And we have to realize that in this nation. The mutuality, the commonality, the fight for Israel is the fight for America. And we have to realize that today. I also believe partnership is shown by actions. I'm proud to have been the first governor to stand up and support BDS. I'm proud to have advocated it all across the nation, and I'm proud that today 23 governors have joined on to the BDS movement. I'm proud that we've strengthened ties between Israel and New York. We're building a beautiful joint venture between Technion and Cornell. It is going to be a world-class technology academic center, and it's right here in New York. I'm proud that we established the first New York-Israel Commission. It spurs economic development. It deepens cultural ties. We've created a tourism agreement where I Love New York campaign is combined with the Israel Ministry of Tourism to combine for mutual tours that go back and forth. 2 years ago, New York signed an R&D agreement with Israel to develop clean energy together, and we are now importing technology from the Iron Dome to keep our power grids safe. I'm proud to say that our administration has done more work with Israel than any administration in the history of the state of New York, and I'm proud of it. But it's not enough to say what we did, because we must now redouble our efforts, because the challenges facing Israel are only getting worse. Israel's border from the south, missiles being pointed at Tel Aviv from the north. Tonight we heard that sirens went off in the Golan Heights, warning of incoming missiles, and that 20 missiles were launched towards Israel. Hopefully, and the early news is that the Iron Dome stopped the missiles, but it just shows the level of danger and the imminence of danger. That's why tonight I plan to contact the leadership of Israel, express our solidarity and support, and tell them as soon as convenient, I plan to lead another delegation back to Israel because times are tough, they're in danger, and New York should be there. The last trip I took, I went past Yad Vashem, which is, as you know, such a powerful, powerful symbol and reminder of how cruel people can be and how ugly humanity can be. And I laid a wreath in honor of the lives we lost, and I was with a rabbi, and I was signing into the book of visitors, and I said to the rabbi, what is the best thing that a governor of New York can say at this moment? And the rabbi said, you should sign it and write Hineni. Hineni is the word used by Moses, Abraham, and Samuel when danger threatened and God called upon them to lead. It means, here I am. Here I am. Today, our democracies are threatened. by the same forces of fear and ignorance that have plagued humanity since ancient times. What we saw in the Holocaust, we should never forget, because we always must remember what governments and humanity are capable of. So I ask you tonight to join me in the only response that has ever succeeded. Hineni, we are here for the state of Israel, and we always will be. Thank you for the award, and God bless you.
Governor, not only are you here, but you've always been here with us, and we trust that you will lead an example, just as you have through all the governors of this United States, in the anti-BDS movement, in standing with Israel, in standing for courage, and in standing for decency. Governor, thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our program will just continue in a few minutes.